No stranger to the microphone, and as a matter of fact, the name of his latest book is A Voice in the Box. And, I love when people say that. How do you get in that little box? But when you hear his voice, Bob Edwards is joining us. Thank you for being here, Bob.
You're very welcome.
And how do you get in that little box?
My parents had this radio, 1939 Zenith radio, big piece of furniture. In fact, it's illustrated in the book.
In the book?
By my daughter, by the way, who did the illustrations.
Nice.
And she said if she knew they were going to make these illustrations so small, she wouldn't have had so much detail. Anyway, this is the radio in my house when I was a little boy, and it's still in my house today.
Love it.
And I wanted to be that voice in the box.
And
It's got this big booming bass thing.
Yeah, it still works pretty well.
Yeah. And it had a green eye that kind of weirded me out as a kid.
But significant.
It was watching.
And we can blame that for who you are today. No, you're an icon. I hate those words, though. I'm sorry, but you did pioneer. You were one of the first voices to be represented nationally. You started the National Public Radio there. And now you're doing satellite radio. When you look at that and you look at radio today, how do you feel? What does that make you think about?
I think it's great. NPR is still thriving, 25 million listeners. In fact, I married one of their newscasters, Windsor Johnston, so I'm still connected with NPR that way. And satellite radio has 23 million subscribers. There's a lot of people listening to the radio, mostly in cars.
Mostly in cars.
Radio's biggest in cars.
And so when people, I hear a lot about, radio's going to go away, where, it's not what it used to be. Certainly it's not what it used to be.
Oh, it was supposed to be killed by television. It was supposed to be killed by computers and online phenomena. It's supposed to be killed by Pandora. It just finds a way. It readapts, and it becomes part of that new media. So that now you have internet radio. It wasn't replaced by the internet. It got itself incorporated onto the internet, which is great because, somebody like me who grew up in Kentucky can go off to work in Washington and still listen to your favorite old radio station in Kentucky through the web. So, see, it only makes radio better.
There you go.
Radio keeps adapting, whatever new technology comes along, like telephone, now we're in the phones. We just adapt and we become part of that new technology.
It's almost like it's organic, isn't it? Just continues.
Well, it's so portable, and it's for your head. You don't have to look at a screen. And
There's
that's a good thing.
a lot to be said for that.
Especially when you're driving a car.
We appreciate that. How's life in satellite radio? Of course, there are many of us who absolutely miss you from NPR. We just have to get over that.
I'm in both, I have a weekly public radio program that PRI distributes to 150 stations. Mm-hmm. Not here in Bowling Green, unfortunately.
But we miss you. But, making that step, going that direction, things are well?
It's actually much better. I was hosting a daily news program that covered 7 hours of airtime over several time zones. And that's very hard. That's very hard work.
And you had to get up really early.
Yes, and on a day when there's breaking news, as we've had so much of lately, it's really hard work because you're on the air continuously. Now I do an hour-long, long-form interview program. I can talk to people and go away on vacation, and it doesn't matter.
You have a life.
Yes, it's not breaking news. Yes. And instead of talking to someone for 4 minutes or 5 minutes, I'm talking to them for up to an hour. And it's conversation. It's not even an interview. It's just relaxed and wonderful. And take a guy like Henry Winkler, who's just in this chair, and talk to him for a full hour about his life and his awful childhood when he was dyslexic and people thought he was stupid, and he wasn't, and what acting did for him. And that's great. People love to hear that stuff.
Well, we were talking with one of the authors earlier, you know, the art of conversation. That was what was the stimuli for him to write a book, because he thought that people didn't talk enough. I agree.
It's kind of a lost art, really.
It is a lost art.
Conversation. And people, you know, we have such short attention spans, and television just likes to punctuate everything with people shouting at each other and talking over each other, that now the idea of two people exchanging ideas, to the industry, it sounds like something very boring, and they don't want to put it on the radio. But there's an audience for it.
And the art of listening.
Some people still appreciate that.
Yes, they do. I do, and I appreciate you. Now, the new book, you decided to write a memoir. Oh my goodness, when you hear that, Bob Edward, you hear your name and they say he's written a memoir. What's that like?
Well, I thought, you know, I was 60-something years old. It was time. There's a dead guy in there. There's bugging. I was wiretapped once. There's all
Got
kinds
all the good stuff?
And then, I wrapped it up, and now I got to write a new one. I got married. I had a heart attack. All kinds of wonderful things have happened to me. So maybe
you look great. You look good.
Thank you.
Sorry to hear about the heart attack, but
I never felt it.
Really?
Maybe I'll have another one day. I mean, I guess I shouldn't recommend that.
Well, no, but sometimes it's that's the old
I thought they were awful. No, I never felt it.
And many of us watching this program and who listen regularly to National Public Radio miss the days of your conversations with Red Barber. When you talk about true conversation, that will never be again. That was so special.
He taught me so much about radio and about spontaneity and about just speaking off the cuff. That was really helpful when there was breaking news and no script. You know?
Right.
But yeah, I learned a lot from Red Barber.
And you wrote a book about those conversations. And yes, that will never come again, but how beautiful that you had that.
Yeah, I didn't think it would go as long as it did, but he gave us 12 years on the air, and it was magnificent. He was
beautiful.
Long retired, and our audience is not big on sports, but it didn't matter. They just wanted to hear his voice.
You weren't talking about sports.
No, he was talking about his cat.
You were talking about life, and people appreciate that. What's ahead for you?
More of the same. I love what I'm doing and expect to do it for many more years. And new adventures, new travels, and share them with the radio audience.
Thank you, and we'll look forward to that. Thank you for sharing your time.
Oh, you're very welcome.
We've been talking with the iconic Bob Edwards. That's going to wrap it up for Outside the Book from the Southern Kentucky Festival of Books. I'm Barbara Deep. Thanks for joining us.